Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm a caterpillar with a baby face on it.
And this week, we grab our talismans and head for the Boiling Isles in the Owl House. Before we activate our housekeeping tube bird, remember you can help us on Mortify the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, signing up for our monthly newsletter through the link in our show notes, or following us on Twitter and Tumblr at MortifiedPod. Leyla.
Aaron.
What did you think about the Owl House?
I really liked it. I liked it a lot. I want to finish watching it. You know, it's one of those things that I've seen online for a long time, but I'm a user of the website tumblr.com, so any impression I get of any media from the internet, it's not good usually. I don't really trust the judgment of a lot of people who have accounts on tumblr.com. So, I've been avoiding this one, but now having watched it, I really liked it a lot. Did you like it?
Yeah, I think we suggested this one because of our friend of the podcast, Max, who was very pro the Owl House, and I think you crushed it. I had a good time. I think it's been established that media that it is for people that are not at least 14 years old kind of doesn't hit as hard for me. But despite, all the stuff that is kind of kiddie and Disney Channel-y about this show, I did like it quite a lot. And, the most important aspect of it, which is, of course, the queer representation, I thought was, quite substantial for it being on the Disney Channel. And we'll, of course, get into that. But yeah, overall positive.
Yeah, so this is our first audience suggestion episode. So, hit us up, mortifiedpod@gmail.com. We could take your suggestion. I'm not committing us to anything. I think I've actually pinpointed why that is, why I'm so... There's two reasons why I think I buy into kids' media more. One is I went to animation school. So,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate a lot about kids' television and kids' writing from, a professional perspective. The other thing I figured out is that I was already 12 when my little brother was born. Therefore, I watched a lot of kids' media growing up through my teens and early 20s. Just that's what was on at our house. So, do I have the movie Cars memorized? Probably still. But I just, I remember watching Thomas the Tank Engine with him, and he watched a lot of stuff that came up after me. So I think I just have a higher tolerance for that kind of stuff. And you aged like a normal adult. So you are not the audience.
Another thing that is, especially specifically with Disney Channel, is that my little sister was 4 or 5 years younger than me. So when I was in 14, 15, peak shitty teen, she was watching a lot of kids media and Disney Channel shows, Hannah Montana specifically. I would just mercilessly mock her for, and including some of the corny writing, which, to be fair, Disney Channel in the mid 2000s had some fucking bad writing. But I think a lot of it is just some residual being a shitty teen, which I'm not proud of, but it is what it is.
God, there was that quote that went around recently on animation Twitter. Some exec from, I think, Cartoon Network. She said something about, she said, girls age out of animation faster and want to watch those multicam comedies. And I think every person who was raised as a woman that's in my professional circles in animation was what the fuck are you talking about? Because, no, we don't. Every time girls liked something, it got canceled. Mm-hmm. Teen Titans, Young Justice, you guys took it away from us and then stuck us on things I was going to just say the Miley Cyrus show, Hannah Montana.
What's the difference, right?
Oh, yeah. Hannah Montana and iCarly and Victorious, which, don't get me wrong, iCarly I had a great time with, but,
it is what was available to you, right? It's
a self-fulfilling prophecy,
right? Yeah, nobody did a survey of teen girls and it was do you all like this shit? Because I think if they had, they would have been oh, actually, this is what our core audience is. But that is, of course, not what happened.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, well, girls won't buy boy toys. It's like, have you considered making different toys for your franchise that you thought was for boys, but
is actually for girls?
I guess it's for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, it's so counterintuitive to cancel shit like that, because it's like, you could make more money by broadening your audience. What are you doing?
Yeah. But as it turns out, the gender politics of the mid-2000s were dicey, and maybe not quite as enlightened as they are here in the, our completely perfect and flawless age of media understanding here in 2022.
Listen, like, you're right? Like, you're right to be sarcastic, but at the same time...
I mean, as we're going to talk about, right, this show is proof that we have, like, culture has moved so far in the past 15 years.
I was going to say, man, if I had a show like Owl House when I was growing up, like, goddamn, these kids are so lucky.
Yeah, it kind of rules. Let's talk about it.
So our plot summary is going to be a little bit weird, because Aaron messaged me earlier before I started watching that all the gay shit doesn't happen until later, so we kind of did a little Owl House charcuterie. But I think we did both watch the first 5 episodes. Do you want to summarize that, and then we'll get into the Luz bit?
Yeah, basically, there is a kid named Luz. I think she's a Dominican American, but I would say she's like maybe 15 years max, but like I would say between 13 and 15 years old. She is having trouble at school because she's a fucking weirdo. And I mean that weirdo parentheses, beloved and parentheses. She's like always like dressing up like, like an otter, or like drawing weird, nerd shit, and, getting in trouble at school. And her mom wants to send her off to a summer camp or some sort of camp, basically to like, the camp is like what they show her the brochure, and it's like, think inside the box. And it's like, to make you a normal person. And camp neurotypical. And basically, instead of that, is she sees this lady named Ida, who is like basically a scavenger who goes back and forth through the human world and the demon realm, and she takes human curiosities and sells them. Ida shows up, goes through a portal, and Luz follows her and gets trapped in the demon realm. But she actually loves it, because the demon realm is full of all sorts of weird, fucked up monsters and weird shit that she is just all about. So she, has some hijinks with Ida, who is like this, 30, I mean, actually, no, she's probably like hundreds of years old, but I would say she's like a late 30s, like lesbian aunt sort of deal. But like she meets her, and she's a witch, and she becomes her apprentice. And the course of the show is like, Luz kind of getting integrated into the society in the Boiling Isles, which is the region of the demon realm where they live. Luz meets a couple of friends who go to the local wizard school, or witch school, I guess. And starts to make friends and enemies. She also meets this little demon dog sort of guy named King. That's like Ida's familiar. And they just kind of have hijinks and adventures, right? We didn't get enough into the actual plot, because like by the time we skipped around to like one of the final episodes of the show, and there are all sorts of names and nouns getting thrown around. I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on here. I don't know what the fucking like draining ritual is or whatever, but I am here to watch some gay teens. But like, so there's obviously an overarching plot. We didn't get into it. Basically, from our understanding, it's a kid from the human world who wants to be a witch and makes a lot of friends and has adventures along the way. And
she finds her own way to be a witch.
That's right.
She doesn't cast spells with circles like the rest of these dweebs. She has little glyphs on a note card.
She does the full Metal Alchemist thing, yeah.
Yeah, she rules. Yeah, so we skipped around a bit, and basically the plot we were following is this through line with Amity, who, not to bring up the show that shouldn't be named, but she is the Sasuke of the group.
Yeah.
This is what happens. This is what Naruto should have been. So it's like, Amity is she's got a lot of pressure on her. We'll talk about her in detail in a second, but like, she's kind of a bully, and she meets Luz, and I was very surprised as to how quickly she develops a crush on Luz. Like, it's very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then we follow kind of their storyline. We bounce around in it. Like, we didn't get to see the major developments, really. But we checked in on them when Amity had a crush on Luz. It was very cute. We checked in on them when they went to Grom together. It was very cute. The dance sequence was everything to me. And then we checked in on them in the last couple episodes of season 2, and we'll talk about this again more in detail later in the episode, but the thing that blew me away is that I did hear the word romantic and girlfriend in the same sentence about these queer teens. So, that's kind of how we bounced around, and I think I will be going back and trying to watch both seasons.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think about Luz? I think that it's pretty clear she's a pretty typical protagonist type. Her voice actor is Sarah Nicole Robles. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I would commit a crime for her. She's a Naruto, right?
Yeah,
she's an underdog.
She's an anime protagonist. What do you want?
Yeah, she's an underdog. She doesn't belong. She finds a place where she does belong. It comes at a personal cost.
Friendship is her power, etc.
Friendship is her power. She's a little goofball. So there's something interesting about Luz that when I was reading up about the show is that she's named after one of the storyboard artists,
Aww.
which I actually noticed watching the credits because I was trying to figure out what studios animated this. Because I don't know if you remember, but there was a show with blue cats on Cartoon Network a while ago. I forget what it's called, but they had an episode with an anime battle sequence, and that was specifically commissioned to Studio 4C, which is a pretty famous Japanese anime studio. And I was wondering if 4C came back to do another a stint with American animation in this one, but they didn't. That's why I was watching the credits. Did notice the storyboard artist's name, and she said, I think I was reading in the wiki that the only one of her conditions for allowing the main character to be named after her was that Luz is Dominican American, which I really liked, because it's not like
they're not doing it for diversity points, certainly. But it is just kind of a thing that's just what she is. There's several instances in which she will speak Spanish, and she speaks Spanish with her mom in the few episodes that we've seen with her mom.
But it also kind of informs her the amount of pressure she feels from her family, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. That is a very specific immigrant American pressure that we've talked about on the show. That comes from being the child of somebody who is not a white person in America. So yeah, I think Luz is great. A lot of my touchstones for children's media, I'm going to go to Kipo in the Age of Wonder Beasts. I think she is a Kipo type, just a cool, happy-go-lucky kid. Big fan. Love Luz. But let's talk about her mentor, Ida Clawthorne. I'm just learning that's her last name. You and I both had the same reaction as soon as we heard Ida's voice, which was to go look up the voice actor. This voice actor is Wendy Malick, who you probably know from a lot of shows. For me, my first thing was oh, this is Beatrice Horseman from BoJack Horseman. Weird. But the actual touchstone is fucking Chicha from The Emperor's New Groove, Pacha's wife. Yeah, and then I think you had a couple other points, a couple other huge roles that she had.
It wasn't her, actually. It was, I think Amity is Katara from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Yeah. Great voice acting talent in this. Yeah.
Oh, and Amity is also Yuffie from Kingdom Hearts 2 and 3.
Because the screenshot you have says Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC only.
Well, she has separate listings for it's 2, 3, it's all of them.
It's because she appears in the other two. I forgot, but I just was why is she only in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC? Anyway, what do you think about Ida?
I mean, I want to be her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing.
life goals. Okay, so she has one of the best. So the art direction in the show is really good. There's a lot of really great details. Her mugs, everything to me. She has one that says like #1 bad girl, which I really liked, and then she has another one that says 30 and flirty. Someone made a replica of that mug on Etsy, and I did save it. I'm turning 29 this year, but I'm turning 30 next year. I want that fucking mug.
Listen, we'll make sure. I will send a personal missive to that creator to beg them to keep it in stock for 2023. But yeah, like I think right, we're at the age where it's like, it's harder for us to identify with kid protagonists. We're much more moving into the roles of like that they're kind of mentors or supporting characters or parents, etc. And Ida's like, like when I said it, like she has like big lesbian aunt energy. She's just like, oh, I don't really want kids. I'm kind of like, I'm like a criminal. I'm like a hugely wanted criminal. My life's a mess. I have all this like unresolved family trauma that I'm still working through. There's a whole plot line where, spoilers, she has to deal with her sister who like gave her a curse that turns her into an owl, like an owlbear, basically. And that's kind of like one of the main plot lines in season 1. And yeah, I mean, I think there is something of like a mental illness metaphor going on with like the potion she has to take every day to help her, deal with this owlbear curse. But I find Ida, kind of like the protagonist that adults who watch the show will kind of veer towards.
Yeah, like I can't remember what the first time that I've had that feeling was. I was reading, it was a book, and I felt like the shift in me from relating to the like teen protagonists to being like, oh, these are my children, and I must, like it's not. I wouldn't call it like a maternal or paternal instinct, but it is that kind of like
it is a protective instinct of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very much this where I'm like, again, I spend a lot of time on Tumblr.com. I wouldn't say I'm invested in like these teen queers in any way, but it is, you do want to see them succeed, right?
Yeah.
So that's a different kind of investment that I feel, as I'm getting to my 30 and flirty phase. That's how I'm feeling. Let's talk about my favorite character in the whole show, which is King.
Okay, that's interesting. Why don't you talk about King first? Because, I mean, the short answer is, like, King doesn't really work for me.
I think he's a moron, and I love him. He's Mushu, right? Like, he's like, I'm a big, bad, strong titan, and he's actually a lapdog. Yeah. I love that for him.
I think in the Wikipedia, they describe him as a little guy who wants to be a big guy, which is really good.
Yeah, voiced by Alex Hirsch of
Gravity Falls, yeah.
Gravity Falls fame, yeah. And a very wonderful Twitter thread on the fighting with Disney standards practices.
Thank you for that, Alex Hirsch. Yeah, I mean, like, the thing about King is that he does kind of lean into, like, the comic relief, like, kids character type, which is why he doesn't really work for me. Like, his whole thing is like, I'm the king of demons, or I'm so big, cower before me. And like, there's a whole big subplot in one episode where he's trying to like take over one of the playgrounds, like the slide on top of the playground. He wants to be on top of that. And like, he speaks like he's like a conquering emperor. And he like, tries to like push another 5-year-old off the slide. And like, that's all well and good. But like, that kind of humor just doesn't hit for me.
Yeah, that's fair. He is a kid, though, like,
yes.
There's a bit I caught at the end where, like, season 2, the 2-part finale, where there's, like, a hint dropped that it was, I don't know if it was explicit in the other episodes we didn't watch, but it felt like a hint from what we saw, that it was his dad that locked away the Collector, and he wouldn't let the Collector play with him. And I'm like, this is just literally a little guy. I do love that he tries to be really tough, and then Luz will pick him up, and she's like, "Who's my little guy? Who's my little?" And it takes him like 2 episodes, and he's like, "It's me. I know.
Yeah,
it's me. It's okay.
It's really good." Let's see. There's so Luz makes some friends who are from the local witch school, Willow and Gus. Do you have any big thoughts on them?
I like them a lot. Gus is, I mean, Willow's cool because you meet her and she's like, I'm failing all my classes and my parents made me, was it the Abomination track?
Yeah,
right?
she had to be the Abomination major.
But she's really good at plant magic, and so she was failing because she wasn't doing the thing she was good at, right? I thought that was nice. And then Gus is just a theater kid.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, right? I feel like he's like a big nerd. His whole deal is illusion magic. He is just kind of like a fun sidekick, but he's also a weeb, right?
Yeah, he was president of the Human Appreciation Society.
Like he's a weeb for humans, and I think that's very funny. There's also like a couple instances where he's just like kind of like, I know I'm a sidekick. Like there's some times where people just be like, only this thing that Gus just did. Only a big fucking nerd would do that. Sorry, big fucking nerd. He's like, no, I know what I'm about, which is very good.
I think that any time you as a showrunner have an opportunity to teach your nerd-ass character what a high five is, and it's contextually appropriate, I think that's a crowning scene. They taught Gus how to high five, and my boy Kageyama in Haikyuu, he got taught how to high five. I think that is like one of the best things you could do in television, so I'm glad Gus got to have that moment.
Yes, very, very fun. Now, the most important part.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Amity? What's her last name? Amity Blight.
I mean, I love her. I think she's great.
Yeah, I mean, like she's set up originally as like the mean like character. Like we're introduced to her like basically just like shitting on Willow for not having good abomination magic. And as that progresses, Amity, and Luz start developing a closer relationship when Luz realizes that Amity both like reads to kids at the library, and also has like a whole like is a big fan of the same like Azula witch young adult series of novels, which is very fun. I think that's a very specific pull for the kinds of people who made this show. It's like, oh yeah, this is how you would meet a potential partner, is by being in the same fandom. But what was that reaction for?
That stung me personally.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Okay, let me clarify. That was when you say the types of people that would enjoy this, that's I got lumped in.
Oops.
But no, it's funny because I was watching Fire Island last night, which is this gay. It is Pride and Prejudice, but everyone is gay and shirtless. And I'm not exaggerating the Pride and Prejudice. It is a direct adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, and a very competent one at that. But I was sitting there watching it, and it's another one of those where the love interest is like also a dweeb and also mean. And I'm like, this is very interesting to watch these two things back to back, because the approach in Fire Island was raw, fiery indignation because it's Pride and Prejudice, right? And that's how you get your man. And I was sitting there last night, I'm like, see, now I gotta be more indignant. And then I'll attract a mean hottie. And I'm watching Owl House this morning, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I continue being an anime protagonist. Who the fuck's to say? It's very confusing, to have these two non-fictional instruction manuals in front of me and give me conflicting messages.
Yeah, no, I think you should probably do both. I think it's the best. Just alternate every other time you see a potential partner. But yeah, Amity, my love of mean women has been established. I think Amity is doing a great job being a mean, but she's also got a heart of gold, which it makes her slightly less mean, which is, of course, the purpose. And I think it seems like, what were you going to say?
I was going to throw in that I love her siblings, too.
She has a bunch of gay siblings who are, one of them, at least in the episodes we're watching, is explicitly or heavily implied to be gay when she calls Luz a cutie, which I was like, oh, they're just doing that, and they didn't censor it, which is incredible, firstly. And secondly, like, they're just like weird, cool, mean teens that like harass people in the library and like love to traumatize their younger sibling, which like, that sucks, but like that's also what having a sibling is like.
They try to blow up a factory at the end of season 2, which I thought kind of ruled.
That's very good. But yeah, like I think they do a great job of building sympathy for Amity in that library scene where we first meet her siblings, because like the all the books come to life, and when they find Amity's diary, it starts like reading out all of her insecurities and like thoughts and feelings. A lot of them relate to Luz, and like she's like, oh, I don't understand why I'm feeling this way about this weird girl, this new human. I can't figure out what to think of her. And they resolve the conflict in the library, and they realize that they can be on friendly terms, which progresses into a romance, which is kind of incredible. We'll get to that in our talking points here in a bit, but yeah, Amity's great. Big fan.
Yeah, I like the Grom episode especially because the whole the whole conceit is that she doesn't want to be Grom Queen, because when she fights the monster that turns into her deepest fear is quote unquote really embarrassing. And the end is really funny because like Luz is like, I'll fight it for you, and then she can't, right? She needs Amity's help, and when Amity steps in, it turns into her fear, and it doesn't have quite enough time to fully transform into the thing she's afraid of. But it's rejection, right? And Luz steps in and she's like, oh, you're afraid of getting rejected by your Grom date? She's like, that sucks. Why don't you go to Grom with me instead? And Amity's like,
okay,
sure.
Yeah. And like the scrap of paper that has like, because like Luz finds the bottom scrap, which is like, will you go to Grom with me? And she's like, oh, that's what you're gonna do. But then like that she drops, Amity drops the top scrap later on when they're walking away, and it's like, it's the name Luz, and it's just like, that's really good. It's literally textual, like that she has feelings for her, which is kind of incredible.
Yeah.
Also, that dance fight they have against it's basically the monster from It, but like that dance sequence was maybe the queerest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh yeah, it's simultaneously the queerest. This is like great choreography too. It's really, I want to go rewatch it again. Just to like watch the choreo. There's
a couple like really good animation sequences where like I wrote down, I was like, oh, is this like Sakuga like in an anime? And because like there's like a noticeable shift in the way that things are drawn and like the way that the frames work. Specifically, I'm thinking about the fight between Ida and her sister, where like Ida starts summoning. We didn't mention this character, but Hooty, who is basically her doorbell, but is basically an owl tube that's really annoying and horrible, and
everyone hates him.
Everybody hates him. It's really good. It's a really good bit.
It's such a good gag. I think one of my favorite Hooty moments is during the episode where Ida gets turned into her cursed monster Owlbear self, and you just hear him yelling from downstairs, "Ow! I'm on the floor!"
It's really good.
He's so funny. I just God, all the non-human characters in this are so fun. They're so good.
Yeah, I mean, like we're hinting at it, but like basically, this show is very clearly influenced by people who like anime, and like that bleeds into their creature and character design, which I think is stunning. Like when I was just like reading some background info, like the Dana Torrance, I believe I know Torrance is her last name.
Yeah, Dana
Torrance talked about how like Pokemon was a huge influence on this show. Also, the paintings of Hieronymus Bosch, which is incredible. So that's why you get both like the weird monsters, but also like the horrible, like mutilated, like weird motifs in their design.
Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about this before, right? But like, kids horror doesn't happen very often anymore. Especially not when like Disney owns everything. We used to have like Courage the Cowardly Dog, and there were some Scooby-Doo episodes that were pretty spooky, but like there were moments where I think you noted it where it was like, damn, those statues' eyes are bleeding.
Yeah, there's a whole sequence in, I think it's the 16th episode of no, it's not. It's one of the season. I think it's the season 2, episode 5. Basically, this is where Gus has to go on like a quest to find these runes, or they're power crystals basically. And they show up and they like yeah, there's just like there's like an illusionist statuary where like in order to scare off the bad guys, all the statues like turn and like literally like red fluid is like weeping out of their eyes, and like it is like pretty gruesome for something that's rated Y7. Like, I don't think it was like, I don't think either of us are going to be like content police here and be like, oh, that was too scary for kids. I think like, for me, if I was 7, that would be too scary for me. But I continue to be a big baby about things. So, but like in general, I think it was really cool that they did that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pro kids horror. I think it's great. Also, like, when the Emperor turns into that weird fucked up monster thing for the season 2 finale, that's pretty scary, right? I think the Collector's pretty unnerving.
In the second episode, there is a puppeteer monster that, like, it's basically just like a big blob, but also, like, has a bunch of, like replicated, like, human, or not human, but, like, elf people, whatever the fuck they are. Like weird puppet things kind of like hanging limp off of its tentacles. Another one that I don't know if you got to was the Bat Queen, which is basically just a huge head with wings, and like claw feet. But like it looks like a scene out of a Japanese horror movie when the Bat Queen enters the owl house, because it's just her huge head poking through and she's just like, I'm here to pick up my kids. And I was like, holy shit.
Damn. No, I did not get to
I'll see if I can
get
find a screenshot, but it's incredible.
God damn. Yeah, no, the creature design is incredible. It's so like, it's interesting to watch this because when you go to animation school, if you draw anything remotely close to anime or take any inspiration from anime, like the professors will eat you alive. They hate anime for some reason. They're just like Western animation traditionalists. But if you talk to anybody who actually has a career in animation, like one of the greatest most successful recent animated series that came out of the West is Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is very inspired by anime, right? Like a lot of these things that have anime influence succeed because anime is a very interesting and very efficient way of like storytelling. Not that it's a genre, but there are certain, just cultural storytelling trends. So it's yeah, it ruled. I also there's just some gags that are really funny. So like the Puppet Master episode is fun because one of the things Ida tells Luz before sending her out on the town is don't trust men with sandals. And you look at the wizard puppet that was like the front for the Puppet Master, and he was wearing sandals, and I was like, Luz, no!
There's another really funny gag in that episode, which was God, what happened? The like angsty, like heartthrob love interest guy puppet does a fucking Metal Gear Solid bit where he's like, Lady Luce, do you think love can bloom on the battlefield? And like, no, the target audience for this is not going to understand that joke. Like, I don't know about you, Leyla, but I've never played Metal Gear Solid in my life, but I just know that because it's a meme. And like, I think it's just so fun that they're just like throwing their shit in there, because like, if you've got to the point where you are making fucking, a show where you have a lot of creative control that's backed by goddamn Disney, you might as well go whole hog.
Yeah, go whole Kojima. I love that. I caught that too. I thought that was really funny.
Really good.
I also like the when Luz was practicing for the Grom, one of her fears was men who wanted to debate online.
Yeah, and she defeats them by being like, you're not coming at this conversation from a place of intellectual honesty, and so I'm just going to block you. It was really good. And like the avatar was like a guy with a fedora that said "milady." Really funny, really good.
Christ alive. I think overall, just like having a show, and like they give you kind of the central message of the show pretty early on, but I think having a show whose central message is just like, you have to figure out, you have to choose yourself and like choose how you want to do things. I think it's pretty rad.
Mm-hmm. It's very good. All right, let's talk about the main thing, which is like they let Disney do the gay thing. This is the first gay kiss in Disney. What is the thing? What is the meme? That's like the first gay Marvel character, or like Disney's first gay Star Wars character, like that thing that happens every year. without fail.
It's every year. It's so LeFou was the first gay character. There was a first gay character in Star Wars. There was a couple other ones.
There was Marvel within Infinity War
Avengers
Part 4.
Endgame.
Yeah.
There was a gay. The director cameo was the gay character.
Mm-hmm.
Disney's had like 16 first gay characters, and so as a trend, I won't call it a rule, as a trend, the television arm, so TVA, television animation, television arm of both Disney and DreamWorks tend to be a little more progressive than the feature film arm. It might be because they're working with a lower budget. Maybe there's a lower, they're not going for mass universal appeal on the television side.
100%, right?
Yeah, but like, She-Ra.
Yeah.
That was lesbians.
Mm-hmm. But that wasn't Disney, right?
No, that was DreamWorks.
DreamWorks, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Like, that was DreamWorks television animation. That wasn't DreamWorks feature. And like, the whole fright with Disney when they bought Blue Sky was they're going to kill Nimona.
Which they did.
Which they did, but it's coming back, baby!
Fingers crossed.
No, like it is.
I don't know. I don't trust Disney as far as I can fucking throw their building.
It's a Netflix exclusive. It's not Disney.
Okay, it's not Disney. Oh, there we go. That's right. There we go.
I think. Well, I have to double check, but I don't know I haven't really been following the way that property's been getting passed around in like licensure, but I believe it's coming to Netflix, and I don't think Disney has anything to do with it. I think it's the folks from Blue Sky who are working on it.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have Alex Hirsch really fucking sledgehammered some walls so that Owl House could bust through,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, like, you were bringing this up before the episode, but like, Disney, like they're not the first people to be like, hey, here's a queer character with an explicitly queer relationship in children's animation, right? Like, I think probably the earliest episode property I can think of is Korra and Asami in Legend of Korra. I'm sure there's probably earlier stuff, but that's, for me, was one of the earliest that I can recall. But like that's Nickelodeon. Like that's stuff that's like way, that was 2014, I want to say.
And then we talked about Kipo. You brought up Kipo a little bit earlier.
Yeah, Kipo with Benson, and his explicit queer relationship. But yeah, it is something, right, to see this and be like, oh, they didn't fully censor this. They had her, show that she was a queer person who was interested in receiving romantic attention from women, very early on, and that progressed to the point where, that is also reciprocated, right? It's one thing to be like, oh, I'm gay, I'm a gay character, and then never have them have a relationship. It's another thing for a lead character to be in a relationship with another like pretty prominent character and have them have a kiss on screen, which happens in season 2.
Yeah, it happens a couple of times. There's kiss on cheek, there's kiss on mouth. It's like, it was bonkers because like the sense that really stood out to me was they were preparing for the final like defense for the draining spell or whatever happens. I'll find out. I'm gonna watch the show. But Ida was talking to Luz, and she was like, well, what I'm doing isn't as exciting as a romantic rescue for your girlfriend. And I like short-circuited in that moment. I was like, whoa, hold up. We just said the words romantic and like it's in the script.
Mm-hmm.
They call each other girlfriends. I'm like, and not in like a, oh, it's just my girlfriend.
Like, right, there'd be like, oh, your girlfriend, and like it would be a joke, right? It's not. It's taken completely seriously. There's no, and like she is rejected by her partner, by Amity's mom, who apparently is a big bad in season 2. But like that's never because of homophobia. There's no homophobia in the world of Owl.
No, it's just classism.
It's just like, oh, you don't make enough money. But like that is really nice, just to, like you said, like this obviously is more important for people who are queer, but like it is just to have that kind of normalizing force in a popular television show that's distributed on a network as wide as Disney Plus, that is important.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Owl House's network.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I think so.
I remember seeing like numbers. I mean, for that it was
Like
not
ratings,
that like
yeah.
people watch TV much anymore, but like it was on television also. So like
Yeah. So it's network, but like it's I brought this up to you like before we started recording, but I listen to. Believe it or not, there are other podcasts out there. I know, tragic, scary, terrifying, and other podcasts other than the Bible Boys. I know, insane. But I do listen to another podcast that this is a while ago. This was during the whole Star Wars thing, where the host, who is gay, said something along the lines of like, Disney will have headlining queer characters, and this is specifically about also the Marvel universe. It was like, it will happen. The problem is it's going to happen after it is no longer like a risk to their bottom line, which is going to be way after it's acceptable culturally. They're going to be the latest to the game because they're a behemoth. But that's the thing, right? When you talk about Disney, what are you really talking about? Because television animation's out there doing it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about feature MCU? Like
that's the thing, right? Like they could say, we'll have these characters, do a gay kiss in Star Wars or whatever, but it'll be a 2-second thing that if you weren't explicitly looking for it, you'll miss. Meaningful representation. Fucking don't even get me started on like Star Wars can't even do meaningful representation with its cishet characters of color. Like
justice for Rose Tico. Justice
for Rose Tico, 100%. Even justice for fucking John Boyega.
Such justice for John Boyega.
I wouldn't blame him if he never touched a fantasy property again. But like, yeah, it's we are constantly in the process of trying to become Disney executives. If they want us out there in Burbank, we'll happily move. But like they do, I think we're not saying anything new. We're not reinventing the wheel. These criticisms we've had are criticisms people have had of the Disney, media corporation for years and years now, which is that they don't, they are so cautious and they are so preserving, protective of their bottom line that they are not willing to lose, I don't even know that a million people would stop, quote unquote, consuming Disney media. It is so hard to not consume Disney media.
1 million moms would sure try.
Oh, I'm sure they would fucking try. And they completely fail because then they would be left with weird YouTube videos to watch, which are just a bunch of perverts dressed up like Disney characters anyway. So, who's really winning that battle? But like, it is embarrassing to see a company of that scale and power be like, oh, we can't make an actual queer couple on the big screen because we're in fucking season 4 of Marvel now, or phase 5 of the MCU or whatever, and the only movie anybody's gonna go see is fucking Wakanda Forever. So like,
is it only 5?
Yeah, I believe that they just announced phase 5.
Yeah, Wakanda Forever is genuinely the only shit I care about, and I already cried at the trailer. So like,
yeah, like I'm gonna watch.
Won't be a dry eye in that theater.
I was thinking about this. I'm gonna go and watch the new Captain America one. I'm gonna be like, oh, I don't know who the fuck any of these people are. And that's the problem with these kind of big phased media universes. And
the only reason people are going to go to Wakanda Forever and cry
because of Chadwick Boseman.
Because of Chadwick Boseman. Yeah. It's not even like Black Panther is a very compelling story, but like people's attachment was to that world because of Chadwick Boseman in large part.
He was incredible. Yeah, like God rest his soul. Where were we? Basically, like we're both very happy and glad that the Owl House got this far. And we still also just want to acknowledge it's not nearly far enough. I think, I wouldn't consider myself a part of the gay agenda, but I would consider myself like your ambassador to homosexuality. I'm your cishet consultant. to all my queer Illuminati friends. And I would say that we do need to kind of ramp up our production of taking over the media, and indoctrinating children. I mean, this is a great step, but we really need to start moving on to bigger audiences if we really want to turn everybody gay by 2023.
Yeah, you're totally right. The gay agenda will be fulfilled when shit like this isn't a big deal anymore.
Exactly, right.
That's all I want. I want it to stop being a big deal. I had this kind of meltdown a couple of weeks ago.
Say, an essay you recently wrote, right?
I did. It was the focus of an essay I recently wrote, which is like, damn, am I tired of the government and the corporations telling me what I can and cannot be and shouldn't be. Like, it's so... it shouldn't be a big deal to these people, and, for all the parents screaming about how, like, the kids are too young, they need to be older to make that decision. The only reason we're older when we made those decisions was because the AIDS crisis took away a lot of our elders. We had no one to look up to. We were set back a bunch, and we didn't have the vocabulary to explain the things we were feeling. Every single queer person I knew has had feelings since childhood. Like, it is, myself included, right? So it's like, God, I wish I had the Owl House. I'm like kudos to Dana Terrace and everyone involved in that process, everyone behind the scenes, all the producers, all of the standards and practices people, all of the consultants, all of the people working on that show. Like, that is a group sledgehammer that they took to Disney to be able to do that. And with a lot of people, predating that, right? Including, like, Disney definitely looked at the popularity of She-Ra, right? So it's, yeah, good for them. I'm really excited. That it was a really dope watch to just be like, wow, they're saying it out loud with words. That's neat.
Mm-hmm. And important. So I guess for our marketing minute, I was thinking, like, what, because of this show is so heavily influenced by anime and also weird specific interests, like, what would a kid's show that is heavily influenced by our own specific interests kind of look like?
Do you have one?
Because again, like, right, my interests are kind of a lot of the same that the Owl House pulled from as far as, like, anime goes. Like, I think it would have a lot of anime influence, but unfortunately for me, I think it would also be like weird criticisms of Catholicism. I wonder if it would probably be set in like a Catholic high school, and it would just be like a bunch of weird people trying to navigate their place between coming to terms with a religion that is fundamentally conservative and in all the ways that is bad, but also having deep devotion to the principles and aesthetics and community around that. But also maybe there would also be child soldiers, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds on brand for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think children's show. See, the problem is, like, every idea I have has already kind of, I don't have an original thought bouncing around in this head, because on one hand, the Owl House exists. We got that. On the other half, you know what? Maybe I would want to take another smack at, like, a Voltron type, because Mama loves big mechs. I love a big robot. I love teamwork and friendship. And, like, we do have a recent Voltron series, but I stopped watching it. So I'd like another swing at something like that, I think. And if we're talking about, like, niche anime inspirations for it, I mean, listen, someone's got to punch God, is the thing.
Is that the name of the show? Someone's got to punch God?
Someone's got to punch God. So it would be something like that, inspired by, like, Dot Hack and Full Metal Alchemist. So, like, you got to punch the god in the game, and if you die in the game, you die in real life kind of thing. But with mechs and friendship.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to pitch your own kids show that's heavily influenced by our specific tastes, you can call us at 775-573-8882, or, of course, email us at mortifiedpod@gmail.com. Love to hear what weird stuff that you've got cooking on up in your good old listener brain.
Yep, and we very rarely divulge our future schedule, mostly because we don't usually have a future schedule more than a couple episodes out, but we find ourselves in the rare position of actually having the rest of the year booked out. That being said, we do have a slot in November that is open that we haven't thought of anything for, and our next episode is also another listener suggestion. We're watching The Big O. So if you have anything for us, shoot us a line, leave us a voicemail, or an iTunes review. Those are always great too.
Mm-hmm. Or just tell your friends. It's really important. The most important way for us to grow is for you to be like, hey, I listen to a weird, independent, very small podcast, but with your help, it could be bigger.
It could be a weird, independent, mid-sized podcast.
That's all we're looking for. Leyla, when we are not trying to grow our small independent podcast into arm of the Disney media empire, where can people find us on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSCS on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Not really up to much right now, but as I retweeted something earlier, I go on Twitter to talk to myself, and if you're there to read it, that's on you. So come hang.
You can follow me on Twitter at AaronSXL, where I tweet about tabletop RPGs, health policy, and writing. I guess probably this week I will post my story that I got published in Broken Plate about Thomas Jackson getting his arm ripped off by an angel. That'll be at aavoid.com. I do another podcast with our good friends on at the Bible Boys. That's on Twitter. We last week did an episode where we played through the Adventurer's Guide to the Bible. It's a 5e supplement, but this week we're talking about The Good Place, which will be very fun. I can't wait to talk about the philosophical and theological influences in that show. And yeah, that's all my good stuff. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, what words should we impart to our listeners as we send them off into their week?
Aaron, you don't know me. I'm brave. I'm a bad boy.
I'm always saying this. We'll see you all next week.